My name is Cameron Mitchell, and I'm about to tell you the story of how my Auntie Diane almost got put out of the family and how she ended up saving my life instead. But before we get there, you need to understand something about Black families. We keep our business to ourselves. You don't tell your coworkers about your cousin's baby daddy drama. You don't post your mama's health issues on Facebook. And you definitely don't announce your nephew's financial struggles to the entire congregation at Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church during Sunday service. But Auntie Diane, she did exactly that. Let me back up and paint you a picture. I'm 29 years old, single, and living in Atlanta trying to make it as a graphic designer. I went to a good school, too good, if you ask my bank account, and graduated with a degree in digital media and a student loan debt that could buy a house. Not a nice house, mind you, but a whole entire house. We're talking 6 figures of debt for a piece of paper that qualified me to make designs for companies that paid me in exposure and experience. But I was making it work, barely. I had a little apartment in Decatur, a 2015 Honda Civic that made a funny noise when I turned left, and a hustle that would make anybody's grandma proud. I did freelance design work, picked up shifts at a coffee shop, and sold custom t-shirts on Etsy. I was surviving, grinding, doing what millennials do, juggling 5 income streams to equal 1 decent job. The problem was, none of my family knew how bad things really were. As far as they were concerned, I had made it. I had the degree. I lived in Atlanta. I posted pictures on Instagram of my designs and my little apartment with the good lighting. To them, I was living the dream, especially to Auntie Diane. Now, Auntie Diane is my mother's older sister, and she's what we call a piece of work. She's 62 years old with the energy of a teenager and the mouth of a defense attorney. She's been married 3 times, currently working on husband number 4, a quiet man named Leonard who learned early on that the secret to a happy marriage is knowing when to go to the garage. She's got opinions about everything, advice nobody asked for, and a smartphone she just learned how to use last year, which made her dangerous. Auntie Diane is also deeply, profoundly, unapologetically religious. She's at Greater Mount Zion every time the doors open. Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday Bible study, Thursday prayer meeting, Friday youth night, even though she has no youth in her house, and Saturday cleanup crew. Pastor Williams sees her more than he sees his own wife. She's a church mother, prayer warrior, and self-appointed guardian of everybody's salvation. And she loves to brag about her family. Loves it. Can't help herself. Her son Deshaun is a firefighter, and she's told that story so many times you'd think he personally invented fire safety. Her daughter Nicole is a nurse, and according to Auntie Diane's testimonies, she's basically saved half of Grady Hospital single-handedly. And me? I was her favorite bragging point because I was the one who went to college and made something of himself. I should have known something was wrong when Mama called me on a Tuesday afternoon. Mama doesn't call during the week unless somebody died, somebody's pregnant, or somebody did something that's about to make the family group chat explode. "Cameron, baby, you sitting down?" she asked, her voice tight. My stomach dropped. "Mama, what happened? Is it Grandma?" "No, baby, Grandma's fine. This is about you." "Me? What did I do?" There was a long pause. The kind of pause that makes your life flash before your eyes. Then she said, real slow and real quiet, "Did you tell Diane about your student loans?" My blood went cold. "No, ma'am. Why would I tell Auntie Diane about my student loans?" That's what I thought. So why is she up at church on Sunday telling the whole congregation that her nephew, Cameron, needs prayer because he's drowning in debt and can't afford to eat nothing but ramen noodles? I almost dropped my phone. She what? "Cameron, I'm sitting in the 3rd pew trying to mind my business during testimony service, and Diane stands up, grabs the microphone, and tells Pastor Williams and 300 people that you owe over 100,000 inches student loans, and you working 3 jobs and still can't make ends meet. She said you told her you were struggling, and she wanted to lift you up in prayer." My vision started to blur. I could feel my blood pressure rising, could feel my edges sweating out, could feel every ancestor getting ready to possess my body so they could deal with this situation properly. I never told her nothing. How does she even know about my loans? That's what I want to know. Your daddy about ready to drive over there and have a conversation with Diane himself, and you know how he gets. I did know how daddy gets. Daddy is a quiet man, retired postal worker, minds his business, watches his cowboy movies, and drinks his one beer on Friday nights. But when daddy gets mad, when daddy decides it's time to address something, the earth shakes, the seas part, and grown folks start apologizing for things they did in 1987. Mama, I'm coming over. Don't let daddy do nothing yet. You better hurry up then, because he already got his hat on. When daddy puts his hat on, it's over. The hat means business. The hat means somebody's about to get their feelings hurt with truth and fact. I grabbed my keys and headed to my parents' house in Lithonia, my mind racing the whole way. How did Auntie Diane know about my student loans? I'd been so careful. I didn't talk about money with the family because I didn't want them to worry. I definitely didn't want them to know that their college graduate nephew was eating turkey and cheese sandwiches for dinner 4 nights a week and contemplating whether he could survive on 1 meal a day to save money. Then it hit me. 2 weeks ago, family cookout at Uncle James's house. I was standing by the grill talking to my cousin Deshaun, Auntie Diane's son, and he was asking me about my design business. I might have mentioned, just casually, just in passing, that I was working a lot to pay down my loans. I didn't say how much. I didn't say I was struggling. I just said I was paying them down. Deshaun must have told his mama. And Auntie Diane, being Auntie Diane, took that little crumb of information, added her own seasoning, stirred in some assumptions, and served it up to the entire church like it was a Sunday dinner special. When I pulled up to my parents' house, Daddy was on the porch in his hat. This was bad. Mama was standing next to him with her arms crossed, which meant she was trying to keep him calm, but also agreed with his level of upset. Hey, Daddy. Hey, Mama, I said, climbing the steps carefully like I was approaching a crime scene. Cameron, Daddy said, his voice low and controlled, which was somehow scarier than if he was yelling. Sit down. We need to talk. I sat. When Daddy says, sit, you sit. You don't ask questions. You don't make jokes. You sit. Mama handed me a glass of sweet tea without a word. This was serious. Sweet tea meant we were about to have a talk. Now, Daddy said, your mama told you what happened at church? Yes, sir. And you didn't tell Diane about your financial situation? No, sir. I mean, I mentioned to Deshaun that I was paying loans, but I didn't tell nobody the details. Daddy nodded slowly. So Diane took that information, filled in the blanks her own self, and decided to broadcast your business to God and everybody. That's what it sounds like, sir. Daddy took off his hat. This was either very good or very bad. Taking the hat off meant he was either calming down or about to say something so profound that the hat needed to be removed out of respect for the wisdom about to be dropped. Cameron, let me tell you something about your Auntie Diane, he said. That woman means well. She got a good heart. But she got a mouth that moves faster than her brain, and she got a phone that made her think she's the CNN of the family. She loves you, son. But she don't understand boundaries. Never has. Leonard tried to tell her, Mama added, shaking her head. That poor man tried to tell her she was wrong for putting your business out there. And she told him he was being unsupportive of her ministry. Her ministry? I asked. Oh, you ain't heard? Mama said, sitting down with her own tea. Diane started a prayer group. She calls it Praying Through It Ministry. Every Sunday after service, she gets folks together to pray for family members going through struggles. She posts prayer requests on Facebook. She's got a whole email list. Pastor Williams told her she was doing too much, but she said the Lord gave her assignment. I put my head in my hands. So I'm assignment now? Baby, you the featured assignment, Mama said. She made you the main prayer request. She even printed out pictures of you and handed them out so people could pray over your image. She what? Daddy held up his hand. Now, before you go over there and say something you can't take back, we need to think about this strategic. Diane is your mama's sister. We got family events coming up. Thanksgiving is next month. Christmas right behind it. We can't have no family war. But Daddy, she violated. She told my business to strangers. People I don't even know are praying over my LinkedIn profile picture. I know, son, and we're going to address it, but we're going to do it the right way, with dignity, not with emotion. Mama reached over and patted my hand. Your daddy's right, baby, but I understand you upset. I'm upset too. Diane crossed the line. But she's still family, and we gon' handle it as family. So what do I do? Daddy put his hat back on. This meant we had a plan. Tomorrow we going to Diane's house. All three of us. We gonna sit down with her and Leonard, and we gonna have a conversation about respect, boundaries, and the difference between praying for somebody and putting their business in the street. I nodded. This was the right move. A family intervention. Controlled environment. Witnesses present. But I should have known nothing involving Auntie Diane would go according to plan. The next day, we pulled up to Auntie Diane's house in Stone Mountain at exactly 4:30 p.m. Daddy believes in punctuality. We rang the doorbell, and Leonard answered with the look of a man who knew exactly why we were there and had already prepared his exit strategy. Hey, y'all, he said quietly. Come on in. Diane in the kitchen. We walked in, and the house smelled like fried chicken and fresh biscuits. This was a trap. Auntie Diane was cooking. You can't be mad at somebody when they feeding you. It's a scientific fact. She knew we were coming probably. Deshawn warned her, and she had prepared a full Southern defense strategy. Well, hey family, Auntie Diane sang out from the kitchen, coming around the corner, wiping her hands on her apron. Y'all just in time. I made chicken, greens, mac and cheese, and cornbread. Cameron, baby, you looking skinny. When the last time you ate a real meal, I could feel Daddy's hand on my shoulder, steadying me. Diane, Daddy said, his voice level. We need to talk. Of course. Let's eat first. Then we can talk about whatever, y'all. Now, Diane. The room got quiet. When Daddy uses that tone, even Auntie Diane knows to sit down and hush. We all moved to the living room. Mama and Daddy on the couch. Me in the armchair. Auntie Diane and Leonard on the love seat. Leonard looked like he wanted to dissolve into the furniture. Diane, Daddy started. What you did at church on Sunday was out of line. Auntie Diane's face got defensive immediately. Out of line? I was praying for my nephew. What's wrong with prayer? Ain't nothing wrong with prayer, Mama said. What's wrong is telling 300 people Cameron's personal business without his permission. I didn't tell his business. I asked for prayer. There's a difference. You told the church he owes over 100,000 inches student loans, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. You told them I'm working 3 jobs. You told them I'm eating ramen noodles. Auntie, I never told you none of that. Deshawn told me you was struggling with loans. I told Deshawn I was paying loans. That's it. That's all I said. Auntie Diane waved her hand dismissively. Well, I put 2 and 2 together. I know them schools expensive. I know you working a lot. I figured you was going through something, and I wanted to help. Help how, Diane? Daddy asked. Help how? By embarrassing him? By making people feel sorry for him? By putting his name in folks' mouths who don't even know him? I was trying to get prayer coverage for him. Prayer works, Gerald. Or did you forget? Don't you start that, Mama said, her voice sharp. Don't you try to make this about faith when this about respect. You should have asked Cameron if he wanted prayer. You should have called him private. You should have done anything except grab a microphone and broadcast his struggles to the whole church. Auntie Diane's eyes started to water. I was just trying to help. Y'all act like I committed a crime. You violated trust, I said quietly. Auntie, you made me look weak in front of people. You made me look like I can't handle my own life. And you did it without asking me, without thinking about how I would feel. You too proud. That's your problem. Auntie Diane shot back. Too proud to ask for help. Too proud to admit you struggling. Too proud to let people in. I did what I had to do because you wouldn't say nothing. Because it ain't nobody's business, I said, my voice rising. My loans, my jobs, my life, that's my business, not yours. You're my nephew. Your business is my business. No, ma'am, it's not, Daddy said firmly. That's where you're wrong. Cameron is a grown man. He got a right to privacy. He got a right to handle his life how he see fit. And he got a right to decide who knows what about his situation. Leonard, who had been silent this whole time, finally spoke up. Diane, baby, they right. I tried to tell you that after church. You went too far. Auntie Diane turned to him with fire in her eyes. Leonard, don't you start. I'm just saying what I've been saying. You can't just... I was trying to help. By embarrassing him, by getting him prayer. The room erupted. Everybody talking at once. Mama trying to calm things down. Daddy's voice getting louder. Auntie Diane crying, Leonard retreating into himself, and me sitting there watching my family fall apart over student loans and church announcements. Finally, I stood up. I'm leaving, I said. This ain't working. We all just yelling and nobody listening. Cameron, baby, wait, Mama started. No, ma'am. I appreciate y'all trying to handle this, but it's clear Auntie Diane don't think she did nothing wrong. And if she don't think she was wrong, ain't no conversation we can have that's gonna change that. I walked to the door and Auntie Diane called after me. Cameron, I'm sorry you mad, but I ain't sorry for praying for you. I turned around. That's the problem, Auntie. You still don't get it. This ain't about the praying. It's about the way you did it. It's about you thinking you know what's best for me without asking me. It's about you treating my life like it's entertainment for the church. I left, got in my car, drove back to my apartment, and for the first time in months, I let myself feel everything. The stress of the loans, the pressure of trying to make it, the exhaustion of working multiple jobs, the shame of having my struggles announced to a church full of people, the anger at Auntie Diane, the frustration with my whole situation. And I cried. I sat in my car in the parking lot of my apartment building and cried like I hadn't cried since I was a kid. Big, ugly, shoulder-shaking crying. The kind of crying that fogs up your windows and makes you wonder how you got here. I thought I was doing everything right. I went to college. I got the degree. I moved to the big city. I hustled. I worked. I grinded. And for what? To be broke? To be stressed? To be the subject of prayer requests at churches I don't even attend? The American dream was looking more like the American scam, and I was starting to wonder if I'd ever get ahead. I pulled myself together, went upstairs, and tried to distract myself with work. I had 3 client projects due, a shift at the coffee shop in the morning, and t-shirt orders to fulfill. But I couldn't focus. Every time I tried to work, I kept thinking about Auntie Diane standing in front of that church, talking about me like I was a charity case. My phone buzzed. It was Deshawn. "Cuz I heard about what happened. I'm sorry, man. I didn't think Mama would do all that." I texted back, "It's cool. Not your fault." But it wasn't cool. Nothing was cool. Over the next few days, my phone blew up. Cousins calling, aunties texting. Even people from Mama's church, people I hadn't seen since I was 12, sending me messages saying they were praying for my situation. The family group chat was a war zone. Half the family thought Auntie Diane was wrong and needed to apologize. The other half thought I was being too sensitive and needed to receive the blessing of prayer. My cousin Tasha started a whole side chat just to talk about how church folks always doing too much. Uncle James posted a long message about boundaries in the digital age that nobody asked for but everybody needed. And through it all, Auntie Diane was silent. No calls, no texts, no messages. Just radio silence, which, for Auntie Diane, was louder than any words she could have said. Mama called me on Friday. "Cameron, you doing okay?" "I'm good, Mama. You don't sound good. I'm tired." "I know, baby. Listen, Diane's hurt. She thinks the family is against her now. She's been in her house all week. Won't answer nobody's calls except mine. Mama, I can't worry about Auntie Diane's feelings right now. I got my own feelings to deal with." "I know. But Cameron, that's still your auntie. She raised you when I had to work them double shifts. She picked you up from school when your daddy couldn't. She was at every one of your basketball games, every graduation, every important moment of your life." My throat got tight. I didn't want to remember the good parts. It was easier to be mad. "She still violated, Mama." "She did, but she also loves you. And sometimes people who love us hurt us because they don't know how to help us the right way." I didn't respond. "Just think about it, baby. That's all I'm asking. Just think about it." I hung up and sat with Mama's words. She was right. Auntie Diane had been there for me my whole life. When I was 8 and got in trouble at school for fighting, Auntie Diane came and talked to the principal, saved me from suspension. When I was 16 and thought I wasn't going to college because we couldn't afford it, Auntie Diane helped me fill out scholarship applications, stayed up with me writing essays, called colleges herself to ask about financial aid. When I graduated, Auntie Diane was in the crowd crying harder than anybody, holding up a sign that said, "That's my nephew," in glittery letters she made herself. But none of that changed what she did, right? Sunday came, and I wasn't planning to go to church. I hadn't been to Greater Mount Zion in months anyway, between working 3 jobs and being exhausted. Sunday mornings were for sleeping, not for sitting in a pew. But Mama called early. "Cameron, you need to come to church today." "Mama, I'm tired." "I know you tired, but you need to come. Trust me on this." Something in her voice made me say yes. So I dragged myself out of bed, put on the one suit I owned that still fit, and drove to Greater Mount Zion Baptist Church. When I walked in, people stared. I could feel the eyes on me, could hear the whispers. "There's Cameron. That's the one with the student loans. Poor thing, working 3 jobs. Such a shame." I found Mama and Daddy in their usual spot, 3rd pew from the front, left side. Daddy nodded at me. Mama squeezed my hand. "Where's Auntie Diane?" I whispered. Mama pointed toward the front. Auntie Diane was sitting in the 2nd row with Leonard. Her shoulders hunched, her head down. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. The service started. Pastor Williams preached about forgiveness, about family, about how pride can keep us from receiving the blessings God has for us. I wondered if Mama had talked to him, if this whole sermon was set up. Then came testimony service. Pastor Williams opened the floor, and people started standing up, sharing their stories, their praises, their prayer requests. I was zoned out, thinking about the Chick-fil-A I was going to get after service, when I heard a familiar voice. "Church, can I have a moment?" Auntie Diane was standing, microphone in hand. My stomach dropped. Oh no, here we go again. "Last Sunday," she said, her voice shaky, "I stood in this very spot and asked y'all to pray for my nephew Cameron. I told y'all about his struggles with student loans. I told y'all he was working multiple jobs. I asked for prayer coverage. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. And I was wrong." The church got quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. "I was wrong," Auntie Diane repeated, tears streaming down her face. "I was wrong to put my nephew's business in the street. I was wrong to assume I knew what he needed. I was wrong to speak on his life without his permission. I embarrassed him. I hurt him. And I did it all while thinking I was helping." She turned and looked directly at me. "Cameron, baby, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you probably don't want to hear it, and you probably don't want to forgive me, but I need you to know that I was trying to help. I just went about it all wrong. You are a strong, capable, hardworking man, and you don't need me or anybody else broadcasting your struggles. You handling your business. And I should have respected that." The tears were flowing now from her eyes and mine. "I also want to say something else," she continued, addressing the congregation. "Y'all, we got to do better about how we pray for people. We can't just put people's business out there and call it ministry. We can't violate people's privacy and call it intercession. Prayer is powerful, yes, but it has to be done with wisdom and love and respect. And what I did last Sunday wasn't none of those things." She set the microphone down and sat Leonard's arm around her shoulders. Pastor Williams cleared his throat. "Church, that's real repentance right there. That's what it looks like when someone recognizes they're wrong and makes it right. Can we give Sister Diane a hand?" The church erupted in applause. Mama was crying. Daddy was nodding. And I was sitting there, feeling every wall I'd built up over the past week crumbling. After service, I found Auntie Diane in the parking lot. She was standing by her car, wiping her eyes, Leonard hovering protectively nearby. "Auntie," I said. She turned, her eyes red and puffy. "Cameron, I meant what I said in there. I'm so sorry." I took a deep breath. "Auntie, you hurt me. You really did. But I also know you love me, and I know you was trying to help in your own way. You can't do that. You can't make decisions for me about what I need or don't need. I know, baby, I know. And you definitely can't tell my business to 300 people without asking me first. I know, but I forgive you because you family, and because I know you got a good heart, even if your execution was terrible." She laughed through her tears and pulled me into a hug. "I love you so much, Cameron, and I'm so proud of you. Not because you went to college or because you living in Atlanta or because you got all these jobs. I'm proud of you because you're a good man. You're a strong man. And you're handling your business with dignity, even when it's hard." We stood there in that church parking lot, hugging it out, and I felt something lift off my shoulders. The anger, the embarrassment, the shame, all of it, just lifting away. "Auntie," I said, I do need help though. I wasn't gonna say nothing, but since you put me on blast anyway, I might as well be real with you. These loans are killing me. I'm working myself to death, and I still barely make a dent in them every month. I don't know what to do. She pulled back and looked at me. Baby, why didn't you say something? Because I didn't want y'all to worry. Didn't want y'all to think I couldn't handle it. Cameron, that's what family is for. We're supposed to help each other, but we're supposed to do it the right way when people ask for help, not when we decide they need it. Over the next few weeks, something amazing happened. Auntie Diane, in true Auntie Diane fashion, decided to fix what she broke, but this time she did it right. She called me first. Cameron, I want to help you with these loans, but I want to do it your way. What would actually help? We talked for 2 hours. I explained how the loans worked, how the interest was eating me alive, how I was trying to pay them down but could barely keep up with the minimum payments. She listened, really listened, didn't interrupt, didn't offer solutions I didn't ask for, just listened. Then she said, let me do some research. I'll get back to you. 3 days later, she called again. Cameron, I've been looking into student loan forgiveness programs. Did you know there's programs for people who work in certain fields? And did you know you can refinance them loans to get a lower interest rate? I knew about some of that, but I didn't know where to start. Well, I'm going to help you start. I found a nonprofit organization that helps people navigate student loan forgiveness. They free, Cameron, free. I made you an appointment for next Tuesday. I can go with you if you want, or you can go by yourself. Whatever you need. I was stunned. This was help. Real help. Not performative help, not let me pray about it and tell everybody help, but actual, practical, useful help. Thank you, Auntie. That's what family does, baby. But she didn't stop there. She started a real ministry, not the Facebook prayer request kind, but an actual, organized effort to help young people in the church navigate student loans. She partnered with financial advisors, brought in speakers, created workshops. She called it Debt-Free Living Ministry, and it actually helped people. Deshaun told me that over 40 young people from the church signed up for the program in the first month. Auntie Diane had found a way to channel her desire to help into something productive, something that empowered people instead of embarrassing them. The appointment she made for me changed my life. The nonprofit helped me apply for an income-driven repayment plan that cut my monthly payments in half. They showed me programs I qualified for that I didn't even know existed. They helped me understand my options in a way that made sense. Within 6 months, I had a plan, a real plan. Not just work until I die and hope I pay these off eventually, but an actual strategy with timelines and goals and light at the end of the tunnel. I was able to quit one of my 3 jobs. Then, a few months later, I quit the second one. I was still working hard, still hustling with my design business and the freelance gigs, but I wasn't killing myself anymore. I had time to breathe, time to sleep, time to actually enjoy my life. And Auntie Diane, she became my biggest cheerleader, but in a new way. She didn't brag about me to strangers. She didn't post my business on Facebook. She just supported me, quietly and consistently. She'd check in every week. How you doing, baby? You need anything? And if I said yes, she'd help. If I said no, she'd respect it. One Sunday, about 8 months after the incident, I was back at Greater Mount Zion. I had started going regularly again, not every week, but often enough that people stopped looking at me like a charity case and started treating me like a regular member again. Pastor Williams called for testimony service, and before I could think too hard about it, I stood up. Church, I just want to say thank you. About 8 months ago, my Auntie Diane stood up here and told y'all about my student loans. People shifted uncomfortably. They remembered. At the time, I was mad. I was embarrassed. I felt violated. But looking back now, I can see that God used that moment even though it was messy, even though it was uncomfortable to get me the help I needed. Because of that Sunday, my auntie learned how to help the right way. And because she learned, she was able to help me and dozens of other young people get our financial lives together. I looked at Auntie Diane, who was crying again, happy tears this time. So I want to say thank you, Auntie. Thank you for loving me enough to want to help even when you didn't know how. Thank you for being humble enough to learn when you got it wrong. And thank you for turning your mistake into a ministry that's changing lives. The church erupted in applause and shouts of Amen and Hallelujah. Auntie Diane stood up, and we hugged right there in the middle of service. Both of us crying. Both of us grateful for second chances and family that doesn't give up on you. After service, Leonard pulled me aside. Cameron, you a good man. You know that? You could have held that grudge forever. Could have cut Diane off. But you gave her grace. That's real maturity right there. Leonard, can I ask you something? Sure. How do you deal with Auntie Diane? I mean, she's a lot. You know she's a lot. He laughed, a deep belly laugh that made his whole body shake. Cameron, let me tell you something. Your auntie is the most infuriating, overbearing, boundary-crossing woman I've ever met. But she's also the most loving, loyal, ride-or-die person I know. She'll go to war for her family. She'll fight for what's right, even when she goes about it all wrong. And at the end of the day, her heart is pure gold, even when her methods are pure chaos. So how do you handle it? I love her. That's it. I love her for who she is, not who I wish she was. I set boundaries when I need to. I speak up when she crosses a line, but I never doubt that she means well. And I never take for granted that I got a woman who loves that hard, even when it's hard to be loved by her. That conversation stuck with me, because isn't that what family is? Loving people through their messiness, setting boundaries while still showing grace, calling people out while still showing up. A year after the incident, I was doing better than I'd ever been. My design business had taken off. Turns out having time to actually focus on your work instead of working 3 jobs helps you produce better quality stuff. Who knew? I'd landed a few major clients, built up a solid portfolio, and was making enough money to not just survive, but actually live. I moved out of my little apartment in Decatur and got a nicer place in Midtown. Not fancy, but nice. 2 bedrooms, good lighting, a balcony, and a kitchen where I could cook real meals instead of living off turkey and cheese sandwiches. The student loans were still there. They weren't going anywhere fast, but they didn't control my life anymore. I had a plan. I was making progress, and I'd learned something valuable. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Thanksgiving rolled around, and the whole family gathered at Mama and Daddy's house. All the aunties, uncles, cousins, and kids. The house was packed, loud, and smelled like heaven turkey. Dressing, mac and cheese, greens, sweet potato pie, pound cake, and enough food to feed a small army. Auntie Diane was in the kitchen with Mama and the other aunties, fussing over the dinner rolls. Leonard was in the garage with Daddy and the uncles, probably talking about sports and avoiding the kitchen chaos. Deshaun and I were in the living room with the cousins, watching football and talking trash. Yo, Cameron, Deshaun said during a commercial break. I just want to say I'm sorry again about that whole thing with my mama. I really didn't think she'd... Man, it's all good. For real. That whole situation ended up being a blessing in disguise. A blessing? She embarrassed you in front of the whole church. Yeah, but she also helped me get my life together. Sometimes blessings come wrapped in chaos. You just gotta unwrap them. Deshaun laughed. Man, you sound like Pastor Williams. I've been going to church more. It rubs off. When dinner was ready, we all gathered around the table, and I mean around, because there wasn't enough chairs for everybody. So some folks were standing, some were sitting on the floor, some were balanced on armrests. It was a beautiful mess. Daddy said grace, thanking God for family, for health, for provision, and for second chances. When he said second chances, I felt Auntie Diane's hand squeeze mine. She was sitting next to me, and Leonard was on her other side, and we were all connected literally and figuratively. After dinner, when everybody was laid out in food comas watching football and arguing about who made the best dressing, it was Mama. But Uncle James swore it was his wife Teresa, and that argument has been going on for 15 years. Auntie Diane pulled me outside to the back porch. Cameron, I want to give you something. She handed me an envelope. Auntie, what's this? Open it. Inside was a check. A big check. Like, really big. Auntie, I can't. Yes, you can. Leonard and I have been saving up. We want you to put this towards your loans. It ain't gonna pay them off completely, but it's gonna make a dent. Auntie Diane, this is too much. Cameron Mitchell, you listen to me. For years, I helped people the wrong way. I threw money at problems. I prayed loud instead of praying right. I gave advice nobody asked for and help that hurt more than it helped. But you taught me something. You taught me that real help comes with respect. Real help asks first. Real help empowers instead of embarrasses. She took my hands in hers. This money, it's yours to use how you see fit. You don't have to tell me how you spend it. You don't have to give me updates. You don't have to thank me in front of the church. She grinned at that last part. I'm giving this to you because I love you and because I believe in you and because you already doing the work. I'm just helping you along the way. I hugged her tight, this complicated, loud, boundary-crossing, big-hearted woman who loved me enough to be wrong and humble enough to make it right. Thank you, Auntie, for everything. For the money, yeah, but more than that, thank you for showing me that family means fighting for each other, even when we mess up. Thank you for teaching me about grace. Baby, you taught me about grace. You forgave me when you didn't have to. You gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve it. That's grace. We stood there on that back porch, the November air crisp and cool, the sound of family laughter filtering through the screen door, and I realized something. I was rich. Not in money, I still had a long way to go with those loans, but I was rich in family, rich in love, rich in the kind of relationships that push you, challenge you, frustrate you, and ultimately make you better. Later that night, after everybody had gone home and Mama and I were cleaning up the kitchen, she said, "Cameron, you know what I'm most proud of about you? What's that, Mama? You could have stayed mad at Diane. You had every right to cut her off, to hold a grudge, to make her pay for what she did. But you chose love instead. You chose forgiveness. You chose family. That takes a kind of strength that not everybody has. Mama, you and Daddy taught me that. Y'all showed me what it looks like to love people through their mess." She smiled, that soft smile she gets when she's feeling sentimental. "We did our best, but you took what we taught you and made it your own. You're a good man, Cameron. Your daddy and I are proud of you, not because of your degree or your business or nothing like that. We proud because of who you are, because of your character, because you know how to love people right." I hugged my mama right there in the kitchen, surrounded by dirty dishes and leftover food, and I felt complete. Not perfect, I still had struggles, still had loans to pay, still had hustle ahead of me, but complete, whole, loved. The moral of this story? Well, there's a few, actually. First, family is messy. Family will hurt you, embarrass you, violate your boundaries, and drive you absolutely crazy. But family will also fight for you, show up for you, and love you through everything. The key is learning to set boundaries while still showing grace, learning to call people out while still showing up, learning to protect yourself while still staying connected. Second, asking for help isn't weakness. I spent so long trying to hide my struggles, trying to prove I could make it on my own, trying to protect my pride, but the truth is, we all need help sometimes. And there's strength in being vulnerable enough to say, "I'm not okay, and I need support." The trick is finding people who know how to help the right way, people who empower instead of embarrass, who respect instead of rescue. Third, people can change. Auntie Diane went from being the woman who embarrassed me in front of 300 people to being one of my biggest sources of support and wisdom. She didn't change overnight. It took work, humility, and a willingness to learn. But she changed. And that taught me that we shouldn't write people off just because they mess up. We should give people room to grow, space to learn, and grace to become better. And finally, sometimes God uses our messiest moments to set up our biggest breakthroughs. If Auntie Diane hadn't told that church about my loans, I might never have gotten the help I needed. I might still be working 3 jobs, killing myself, with no real plan to get free. The moment that hurt the most ended up helping the most. The situation that embarrassed me ended up empowering me. Life is funny that way. These days, I'm doing good, really good. The loans are getting smaller every month, the business is growing, I'm sleeping better, eating better, living better. I even started dating a nice sister named Jasmine. I met through the church's young professionals group. Yes, I'm going to church regularly now. Auntie Diane's influence strikes again. And Auntie Diane, She's still Auntie Diane, still loud, still opinionated, still all up in everybody's business. But now she asks first. Now she respects boundaries. Now she uses her powers for good instead of chaos. Her debt-free living ministry is thriving. They've helped over 200 young people navigate student loans, and she's partnered with several other churches in the area to expand the program. She still gets on my nerves sometimes. Called me last week to ask why I haven't proposed to Jasmine yet. We've only been dating 6 months. Auntie, calm down. But I love her. Can't help it. Last Sunday, I was at Greater Mount Zion, sitting in my regular spot, 4th pew from the front, right side. Jasmine was next to me. Mama and Daddy were in their spot. Auntie Diane and Leonard were in theirs. Pastor Williams was preaching about family, about forgiveness, about how God puts people in our lives not to make us comfortable, but to make us better. And I looked around at my family, my loud, complicated, boundary-crossing, fiercely loving family, and I thought about how far we'd all come, how we'd hurt each other and healed each other, how we'd messed up and made up, how we'd learned to love each other better. And I realized something. Auntie Diane telling the whole church about my student loans was the best, worst thing that ever happened to me. It was embarrassing, yes. Violating, absolutely. Wrong, 100%. But it was also the catalyst for change. The push. I needed to ask for help. The moment that forced me to be real about my struggles instead of hiding them. The incident that taught my family, taught all of us how to love each other better. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most are also the people who help us the most. Sometimes our biggest embarrassments become our biggest blessings. Sometimes family has to fall apart a little bit so it can come back together stronger. And sometimes, just sometimes, the auntie who tells your business to the whole church ends up being the one who helps you get your whole life together. Go figure. So if you're reading this and you got an Auntie Diane in your life, somebody who means well but does too much, somebody who loves hard but crosses lines, somebody who drives you crazy but would fight the world for you, give them some grace. Set your boundaries, yes. Speak your truth, absolutely. But give them grace. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to love each other the best way we know how. And sometimes the best way is messy, sometimes it's loud, sometimes it starts with a church announcement about student loans and ends with a whole ministry that changes lives. That's family, that's grace, that's love, and honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to call Auntie Diane and tell her to stop asking Jasmine about her ring size. Baby girl and I are taking our time, and Auntie needs to mind her business. Some things never change. And honestly, I'm okay with that. Like this video if it touched something in you. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about what it means to be human, to be family, and to choose love even when it's complicated. I'll see you next time.